application for. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us. I think we can get started, and I'll start with introducing our guests. We've got a wonderful array of guests today, starting with Judy Sneyman, who is the Assistant Director of applications for EMIA at the Department of Trade, Industry and Cooperation. Should you be wanting to look at how the rebate system is working, should you be wanting to look at co-production and other incentives that the DTIC has. And we also have Neil Brandt here on the panel as well. I'll read Neil's bio shortly. We also have Arya Ambalalu, who is a multidisciplinary filmmaker based in Johannesburg, and over a course of a long and varied career, she's played key creative roles on groundbreaking African feature films that have screened at major international festivals, including Cannes, Sundance, and of course, IDFA. Arya has a distinctive approach to form and politics, and across her practice and various collaborations. Arya is currently in production on the archival cine collage, A Girl and a Gun, which is a love letter to her camera, which is her first solo work and the first work in her own voice. The project has been some years in the making, and it was initiated in 2021 and has to date received funding from the National Film and Video Foundation, as well as the IDFA Bertha Fund for both development and production. So she's perfectly placed to let us know about how she went around creating a strong application that eventually landed her both development and production funding from IDFA. And of course, I said I'd read Neil's bio. He needs no introduction, of course. Neil is the former co-chairperson of the Documentary Filmmakers Association, but he's also a seasoned communicator and dynamic team leader, adept at engaging platforms, financiers, and talent expertise, the filmmaker and producer, and he works fluidly again across genres, cultures, and time zones. He's the founding partner at Storyscope Media, and he will be telling us more about tips on strong applications and other experience that he has, of course, gained in his multi-spanning career. Our guest from IDFA is Selin Murat. I'm just waiting for my screen to load, and then I will give you her bio. And of course, there's gremlins in the internet, and I'm just getting this rainbow going around and around. Please bear with me while I load this.
It's the rainbow. It's called the Rainbow Wheel of Doom. But I can also, I'm happy to introduce myself. That's fine. Make that easier. Yeah, I'm happy to introduce myself. I'm Selin Murat. I'm the executive director of the IDFA Bertha Fund for the past year. I took the job exactly a year ago. My background is in creative producing documentaries. I co-founded a company based out of Canada that I ran for over 10 years. From there, I moved on to industry programming and sort of a macro vision of creative documentary as head of industry at a film festival in Montreal called RIDM. And then from there, over the COVID period and changes in life, I moved back towards my home, which is Istanbul. I'm half Turkish, half French. And eventually I started working with IDFA as the markets manager, which means for 4 years, I ran the forum and docs for sale. So sort of, again, a macro overview of industry, financing, co-production, and different ways of collaborating in a documentary space. The one thing I hadn't done yet in like this 15 years or 18 years of career was be in a funding space. So that was very exciting when I applied and eventually got to get behind the scenes of what it's like to actually be in a funder position. And so that's what I've been doing for the past year. There you go.
Fantastic. So, Selin, you are pretty new in the role, but of course, you've been at IDFA even before you assumed this role. So, I
Yeah.
just want to start off with, we have different levels of filmmakers joining us on the call today. But for those who may not have heard of IBF and are hearing about the IDFA Bertha Fund for the first time, what is the fund trying to make more possible for documentary filmmakers?
Yeah, the IDFA Bertha Fund has been around for over 20 years, and its mandate has always, the core mandate has always been the same, although shifting as, our societies shift too. But its primary goal is to support independent, creative documentary filmmakers who are operating in territories and spaces where they do not have yet access to a full, flourishing environment, economy, and political system that encourages that independent, creative documentary space. So most, that's the basis of it. So as that's the core mandate of the fund. So we operate in many places in the world, actually, all over Latin America, Africa, Asia, parts of Eastern Europe. So we're almost, actually many places are eligible, and more are becoming, because independent creative documentary is losing economy and political freedom to make their work. So unfortunately, our mandate is getting bigger, not smaller. But that's the mandate of the fund. We work with filmmakers at all stages, first-time filmmakers to seasoned filmmakers, actually. And our different funding schemes that we can go over in some detail or not, because honestly, our website is pretty good at explaining it all. So it doesn't have to be so, the deadline is this, but we can do some of that. But we have several schemes that the Classic Fund, which again is for all stages in development and production. We have a European, like the IBF Euro Co-Production Fund, which encourages co-productions between Europe and IBF countries. But here, big caveat, which we can discuss at length, we only encourage these co-productions in a fair co-production way, which we could talk about more. But our fund, essentially, if you apply to this fund, the European partner has to put on paper in contracts that they will remain a minority partner, that their rights will never oversee the originating producing rights. Anyway, it's a whole idea of a better idea of co-producing. That's what that fund does. And then we have a small but mighty top-up fund for projects that are international projects that are working with a Dutch co-producer, because we have a little deal with the Netherlands Film Fund. And that's like a top-up for projects that have this additional partner. And then I would also add, and Aria probably knows this too, because she's a grantee, we do a lot of other ancillary funding for our grantees in the form of travel support towards attending IDFA, our markets, our training programs. We do spot-on support, like legal support, creative support, feedback. Just once a project has been granted, we stay with and follow that project and team until and after the film is done. That's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks. And yeah, it will be great, I think, for us to go through, what is the IBF Classic, as well as the different categories and deadlines for those. So I think that would be great if we can do that a little bit later. And of course, you also mentioned the co-productions. I think we can speak to DTIC about that as well. Now, Aria, you are a grantee that got funding from the IDFA Bertha Fund Classic, Fund. So please let us know and talk to us about how you approached your application.
Hi there. Yes, sure. I mean, I I wrote like a list of what could I say I did right? And the first is, I had been sitting with the idea for the film from I think about sort of 2017. It went through different conceptual stages. I knew I wanted to work with colonial archives. I knew I wanted to work with my own personal archives. And it started, I went through a stage where it was an epistolary film, letters to people on screen. And it went through various iterations before like the concept settled and I knew what the sort of thrust of the essay was going to be. And when that settled, and so my tip here is like, know when you and the film are ready to be, opened up. Because it is a big deal, to sort of go through the application writing process, which is a rigorous process. And I think there's something in confidence when you know you're at the stage where you're ready to be sharing the paperwork. So that's the first thing I think I did right. It was the right time for me. I felt ready. I mean, it was my first application after 20 years of documentary filmmaking, where I felt ready enough to be in my own voice. And I knew that I had something that was, it was the right thing for IDFA as well. It was about the image. It was a very definitely pushing the boundaries in a very creative documentary space. I couldn't think who else was going to possibly support me. So it was a good fit in that way as well. And then, so my second thing is I didn't lie. So even though it wasn't fully conceptually resolved, and I reread my development application, and it like now reads like this rambling stream of consciousness. I presented the project exactly where it was in the moment it was, and was very honest about the wide net that I wanted to cast. And I think that that was something really important to do because it allowed me to sort of experiment in the process and not be limited to too closed a structure or too soon. And I think, the thing that really helped, given that I had cast a very wide net in terms of what I was looking at, the themes I was interested in, was that the application from development was supported with I think quite strong material because I kind of knew what in language I wanted to do with the film and that visual material. It was Isabel who was the head of the fund at the time, and when we met, she said, when we read the paperwork, it was like, it wasn't such an easy read. But when we saw the material, suddenly it all started kind of making sense. And so I think that visual material it is a visual medium. We are like documentary artists. So showing your art is important, I think, from development, which takes me to my don't be limited by resources point, which is to say, if you have a great concept and it's a great, you feel you're ready and the film is ready, you don't be waiting for like the big camera and the, huge production value stuff, because the coolest thing about documentary, let me read it as I wrote it, because it's for me, the best thing about documentary is that production value can mean many, many things. So it's access to the story world. It's the story world itself. It's however you're going to use the medium. So if you're doing it on a cell phone, if you're borrowing a friend's laptop to make it, just get your gaze and your language, give them a sense of that thing. I think that, yeah, I think.
Well, congratulations to you and your team, and we'll be speaking a little bit more, obviously, about where you are now with the film and what the next steps are. Just to bring onto the conversation, Judy Sneyman, who is the Assistant Director of EMIA Applications from the Department of Trade, Industry and Cooperation. Judy, thanks so much for your time. Of course, we are at a time in our relationship with the DTIC where we're trying to really remedy and understand how you can best support us as an industry and how we can get back to a place where we are taking advantage of the incentives and really putting our best foot forward when we do approach development partners in other countries in terms of what they are set to benefit by partnering with South African institutions. Can you just let us know, in terms of someone thinking of applying for this, and what sort of assistance the DTIC could, offer currently to filmmakers. Judy, please let me know if you can hear me and if you can. Yes.
Yeah, so good evening. I'm from EMIA, from the Export Marketing Investment Assistance. So I will be taking you through of the offerings that we have available to market productions, and then it's actually across all sectors and not only focused on the film industry. So I'm just going to take you through a generic slides on how to apply and what the benefits are. And then I can take you also through a few steps that's actually required in the application form that will just give you a picture of what is required. So EMIA is there to develop export markets for SA products and services and to recruit new FDI into the country. So we provide this objectives we support by providing marketing assistance to develop and grow existing export markets. And then we also assist with the identification of new markets through our market research offering. And we assist companies to increase their competitiveness by supporting patent registration, quality marks, and product marks. And then we also assist facilitation to grow FDI through individual FDI missions. So just to give you a feeling of where we fit into the DTI, we're part of the incentive branch of the DTI. We're on the individual offerings, the middle column, where we provide assistance for individual exhibitions, primary market research, FDI, and individual inward bound missions. So that's our basic offering. So on the other side, there's the group offerings, which is the national pavilions and outward selling trade missions that is administered by TISA, where they organize the pavilion. So if there's a pavilion selected for a certain exhibition, we, for instance, don't assist, then they will assist. And then also within our incentive branch, we have sector-specific assistance, project funding, and project funding for emerging exporters, and CPFB, which is for capital goods export. So on this side, the film industry will fit into the SAS project funding. I'm not sure, but the SAS sector-specific project funding, we didn't have for anyone today here to elaborate on that offering, but that is where there's a group of emerging exporters participating at an exhibition abroad, and there's funding specifically for that. They have their own set of guidelines and rules that's different to ours. But for instance, if a company is participating at project funding, then they can't use EMIA individual assistance yet. If they decide that they're ready to participate on their own and the individual exhibitions, then they can no longer go back to being an emerging exporters. I'm just waiting for the next slide. Right, so for entities to be eligible for the assistance, we provide it to the manufacturing industry and or service companies within the that supports the DTIC priority sector. Now, one of the priority sectors is definitely the film industry, and therefore we do provide services and producers within the DTIC film priority sectors. Entities that outsource their manufacturing, that would be more focused on manufacturing, and then Sometimes you also get, besides the film producers, you might find agents that's marketing services or products of different companies. Then in that sense, we support SA trading houses and commission agents representing at least 3 local manufacturing or service entities that support the DTIC priority sector. And then we also give assistance to SA export councils, industry associations, and groups representing at least 5 of its members. And in that regard, we'll ask for certain documents just to indicate that it would be at least 5 of their members that would benefit as part of their participation. And then we'll move to the next slide. So there is some mandatory conditions. So I haven't highlighted all of them, but these ones are the major ones. In the actual guidelines, everything is more described in detail, and there are some additional mandatory conditions. But normally these are the ones that would make a company not to qualify. So entities at first must have traded for more than 1 financial year, and they should be in good standing with SARS and provide us with a tax clearance certificate to prove that. And then we only support companies that comply with the BEE Act, and we look at level 1 to 8 contributors. And then completed application forms is required as early as 6 months before the exhibition and no later than 3 months before the start date of the exhibition. We can move to the next. So the first offering and the most popular offering in EMIA is the individual exhibition assistance, where we look at companies exhibiting at recognized physical or virtual exhibitions where the DTIC doesn't have group participation in the form of national pavilions. Then we can look at providing support. We'll go into more details now regarding what we offer. So just to give you an overview of the kind of documents we're looking for, we don't have a physical application form. We have an online application form, and we have a portal that we call OIS, the Online Incentive Solution, where companies have to have certain documents in place and certain information is required. So we'll go through the fields a bit later, but if you log into the OIS portal after you've registered, you have to have these ones ready to apply. So it's basic information like the certificate of incorporation to show that the company is registered and then for longer than a year. The BE certificate or affidavit where applicable, financial statements. We do accept audited, reviewed, or compiled financial statements, depending on what the Act requires from that specific company. And then a brochure or download of the website of the company that we can have an overview of exactly what the company is offering. And then exporters registration certificate that would be applicable on the film industry, as it's not required from companies within the service industry. The next. We also require an export marketing plan giving us an overview of why the company has chosen a specific market, what's the short-term and long-term objectives. We have a guide, but some companies have long export marketing plans, but we doesn't necessarily need all that information because some of them might be sensitive to the company. We just need like 2 or 3 pages overview of the marketing plan. And then entities that outsource their manufacturing process will need to give us an agreement that's in place. So it won't really be applicable to the service industry. And then, as I said, if If a company acts as an agent, a commission agent, or export trading house, they need to give us letters of permission or agency agreements to represent these companies at specific events. And then for export councils and industry associations, we need at least 5 permissions from the companies that would be presented at the event. And then just the tax clearance certificates to show compliance with SARS. And this SARS TCS is required for both the application and claims. Move to the next. So the documents continue that we need 3 quotations for marketing material, 3 quotations for air travel, and 3 quotations for freight forwarding. And then we also give him additional support for assistance for persons with disabilities. So we need the motivation and 3 quotations if it's required, and then an exhibition brochure telling us everything about what the event is about, when it will happen, what sectors would be presented at this event, and what type of visitors will be showing up to the event. So we really have to demonstrate to our adjudication committee how this participation at this event will support the industry. We look at international exhibitions. So sometimes we might find a local event that's of an international basis where there would be participation and visitors from across the globe. Then we can also look at exhibitions in South Africa, but mainly the ones in SA have to be motivated well. But internationally, it's easier because most of them actually have international participation. We can move to the next. So the assistance that we support, we basically support the companies to attend the event and to pay for the expenses of the exhibition. We are operating on a reimbursable basis, which means that companies will have to apply that 3 months before we consider the application, and if we provide approval, we'll send the clients or upload actually an approval letter with the maximum values that can be claimed afterwards, and then we pay on actual cost, but not exceeding the maximums as per the letter of approval. So for air tickets, we support up to 20,000 subsistence allowance. That would be for covering most of the expenses like the hotel and food, for instance, and travel that side, ground transport. So there we're giving 3,000 per day for a maximum of 10 days. And then for transporting samples there, we provide assistance to 20,000. And then for the actual exhibition cost, we consider 65,000. We also have a part for where we decide for marketing material and listing costs on a digital publicity or e-commerce platform, where there's different offerings for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, as well as first-time applicants. It goes up to 10,000, and for other entities that not within that first group, we can support up to 5,000, and it's split between marketing materials and digital listing. We can move to the next slide. So the additional financial support for a person with disabilities, we can assist with 35,000, and the clients will just have to motivate to us and tell us exactly what kind of assistance they require. It might be that they need somebody to travel with them, or it might be some other funding that they require that would make it more comfortable for them to participate at the exhibition. So we're not limiting it to certain activities. We consider based on the motivation from the client. So that's in additional to the other funding. Next slide. So as I said, the application process, we actually started this in September 2022, where we have the platform. There's the website address where it can be accessed. The only incentive that's not available on there from our side is the individual inward buying mission. It's where if you invite a company to come and visit your company this side, it should to then get investment into the project, or we also have buyers with physical products. That one is not on their platform and it's still a manual form. Yeah, the online incentives system won't accept late applications, so it's very important to upload it 3 months or earlier than 3 months on the system. We process it on the system. All our communication is then also via the online incentives. Companies will receive emails to say what is required and by which date. So I think it makes it much more transparent, because whenever it's change status, the companies can look at the change in the status and follow the application through the process. Okay, next slide. So we require that companies go through the EMIA guidelines that's available on the DTIC website, and then the next step is to submit it on the portal. We process the applications, look at all the technical issues on the documents and the application form itself, and it goes through 3 different levels, and then at the end it goes through a peer review process where it's technically evaluated, and only after that we then present it to our adjudication committee that takes the final decision on whether the application is supported or not. After that, we'll communicate the outcome to the client. So the next slide will focus on the claims process. So if our application was successful, the client will again have to familiarize themselves with the claim requirements, because they have certain requirements like no cash payments, no third-party payments. So it's very important to go through the requirements before they actually start incurring costs, to make sure that they're eligible for to claim back the funding. This is claimed within 2 months after the end date of the exhibition. So it's also submitted online on the portal, and they do a technical evaluation on the claim, and then finally it goes to our DTIC finance division for payment. Go to the next slide. And here's our contact details. Our director is Mr. Sitembile Tanzi. Is at that phone number and the email address. I'm then the assistant director in applications, and our deputy director at claims is Simon Robakane. We also have not new appointed, but we have 2 deputy directors that's now responsible for individual exhibitions. So they are from the unit for a long time, but they now took over the responsibility of managing EMIA individual participation. So the details is also available on request if required, but you can always contact us. We actually have a dedicated email as well where we can assist you. Can move to the next slide. Yes, where we are located. We're located in Sunnyside, in Pretoria. You can move to the next. And you can move to the next. I think this is there.
Thank you, Judy. Thanks for that comprehensive presentation and for giving us all the different types of incentives we can take advantage of. Now, you said for the individual applications, it's not done through the portal. Is that correct?
Okay, so the individual exhibitions one is available on the portal. It's only because I didn't cover the other two, but I can just quickly take you through them. We also provide assistance for primary market research and foreign direct investment research. It's basically the same offering, where we look at companies traveling abroad to meet potential buyers or investors, and they need to have at least 2 confirmed appointments to qualify for the assistance. And we provide assistance then with the air ticket, the subsistence allowance, and a small amount for transport cost of samples and for brochures. So that one is also available on the online incentive, as well as the exhibition assistance. The only other one that's not available, and that's a very unutilized incentive, it's called the individual inward buying missions or inward bound missions, where companies will invite a potential investor or buyer to come to South Africa to view the capacity here and to conclude possible investment or export orders. So that one of the incoming buyer or investor is not available on the online incentives, but all the others are available.
All right, thank you. And I'm sure our members and everyone on the call has some more questions, and we'll open up to that shortly. Neil, now coming to you and your experience with Storyscope, I know you've worked across many different types of film application funds, etc. I want to find out from you, Aria mentioned how she approached her application in terms of her authenticity, in terms of not lying on her application, etc. Can you talk us through just how we can create a strong application for a fund like IDFA, knowing that we've got about 3 weeks left, 2.5 weeks left? Just some of your experience and tips to give us in terms of creating a strong visual teaser or other materials to accompany the application.
Thanks, Sarah. An absolute pleasure to be here. It's been quite interesting sitting here because I've used the fund. I've worked with Judy over the years quite a few times to make use of the very efficient EMIA scheme, which has actually also gotten me to IDFA. So it feels like it's borderline nostalgic. I mean, yeah, IDFA, the IDFA fund, the forum, Docs for Sale. I mean, IDFA has been part of my life for many, many years. Not so much in the last, 3 or 4, but I've pitched almost all my films there in the early stages of my career. I've worked at IDFA Bertha Fund numerous times, and done the summer school. So, and one thing I want you to understand about IDFA, it's a family. It's an ecosystem that really tracks and supports filmmakers over time, right? And to understand, I guess, the ethos of not only IDFA but any market or festival or fund that you go to is really, I think, part of the work you got to do as a filmmaker to give yourself the best chance of succeeding with your application, right? I mean, Aria's 100% right. Don't lie, right? What that basically means is be authentic, right? Authenticity to your inspiration and your original premise and original idea is absolutely key. I mean, the people that read the funding applications, they read thousands of applications, right? Not only this year, but many years. So you really need to put yourself in the mind of someone who has got probably a lot of street smarts, a lot of exposure, and is very in tune with the themes and issues that are, I guess, the zeitgeist of our times, right? And they see a lot. And they're probably also good at recognizing patterns, right? Patterns around what is interesting in the world today, and they recognize patterns of inauthenticness, right? When you're reading so many proposals, you very quickly understand when someone's not speaking from the heart. It jumps out of the page at you, right? So reading from the heart or writing from the heart is the best way to enter someone else's heart, right? So that is rule number one. And how do you do that? Okay, that goes right back to the very basics of filmmaking. Filmmaking is, especially the kind of filmmaking that IDFA champions, author-driven filmmaking that really looks at stories that are not easy to get the attention of I guess mass media, is something that requires dedication, bravery, and there's no shortcuts to that. There's no having a quick idea and slamming out a proposal, and taking a chance. I think there's no chance taking with funds like IDFA. I mean, IDFA's been around for many, many years. They've got an incredible team who've seen and done it all, right? And they want you to succeed, okay? So they're on your side as a filmmaker, but they have a lot of filmmakers coming to them. So it's your business to, number one, find the story that you believe in. If you don't believe in your story, no one else is going to believe in your story. Okay, simple as that. But that's just the start of it, right? I mean, I've also, if I remember back to the days that I first started going to markets, and IDFA sits within a group of markets. I think that is very interesting. There's of course there's Hot Docs, and there's Sunnyside, and there's a Berlinale, and there's a bunch of markets that really support author-driven filmmaking, and every year they change their focus and their interest, and it's up to you to pay attention to that. I would spend hours going through the IDFA website, looking at the films that they had selected in the past. Look at all of the. I actually did an interesting exercise now. I went to the IDFA website and typed my name in there, and up popped a list of 10 where they tracked every single of my applications, the funds, the films, the pictures. So there's a massive database on the IDFA website that is your tool to understanding how IDFA works, and whether and you making an assessment whether your film works for them or not. Maybe it doesn't. Doesn't mean it's a bad film or not a film that doesn't need to be made. It just might mean that it might not be a film that IDFA's looking for at this point of this year. And there are there's what I call global shifts in the gaze of media. I think there was a time when South Africa was very popular in the imagination of international funds. I do think that's subsided a little bit. There's obviously the interest moves around, and there was a time I think when Palestinian films were high fashion, then there was Ukrainian films were high fashion. It shifts. But even if there are, I guess, interest levels, what we know is that funders and film festivals, they're looking for a voice. So if you have a voice that comes through in your writing and comes through in your visual presentation, then that's the best advice I can give you, because there's no one can tell you how to have a voice. That's up to you. That's your voice that you own. So I'll get back to a little bit about this idea of understanding IDFA not just as a fund. I think the first time I went to IDFA was to pitch a film at the Forum, and that was an absolutely thrilling experience. I think the first time I pitched on the international stage was at IDFA. I think it was a film called Angola, Saudades, One Who Loves You, the film that I made in Angola, looking at the state of democracy in Angola through the eyes of on-the-ground hip-hop artists. And and politicians and activists on the ground, but the way we got there was a process of just understanding how the system works, right? There was a project in South Africa at the time, this is many years ago, I think 16 years ago, Project 10, which was looking at the nature of South African democracy, and there were a lot of international commissioning editors running workshops in South Africa. I made sure I got to know them and I got to understand how the system worked. I made sure I pitched my film to them when they were in South Africa, sitting at right here in South Africa, and I would get letters of intent from international broadcasters, and those letters of intent from a number of European broadcasters would be, I guess, the collateral that I would use to submit my idea to the forum, which we really believed in, obviously, and then we got accepted to the forum, and that really was my first exposure to how international film financing worked, and it was a thrilling, terrifying experience, and that got me introduced to IDFA and to all the other programs that could run at IDFA. And that resulted in I guess many years of a relationship that that still, for me, even though I haven't been too involved in it for the last few years, the European co-production that I did last year together with VPRO, which is a Dutch broadcaster, and ZDF and Arte, and for my sins, SABC, was with producers that I met at the forum in Amsterdam, right? So those relationships really, I guess, ricochet through the years, and that is what you need to understand about something like it. Yeah. So I mean, I could go on. I mean, IDFA is really an institution that supports independent filmmakers. It's looking for new voices, looking for authentic voices. And it's not just one thing, it's many, many, many things. I have so many excellent programs. And the other thing is that if you get rejected and you get upset or sad or miffed, you're in the wrong business, right? Every single yes that I get, I probably get 20 rejections, right? So, there is, and every time, every rejection you get is one close step. The way I see it is one step closer to a yes, and it takes one yes to change a project forever, right? To change your access to the market. Because the thing is, like, getting into for example, the IBF fund, it's not just about that, because now you are being tracked, okay, by IDFA for possibly other programs, training programs, and ultimately the possibility of you premiering your film at IDFA, which is, I guess, the ultimate goal. Getting a premiere at a festival like IDFA really helps draw attention to your film and get it out into the market. So yeah, I mean, I could say a lot more, but I think I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to take questions, but it's exciting also to be sitting here with Judy, who's helped me get to IDFA in the past. So it's full circle. These are not, I remember just back to the DTI funding processes. You cannot be underestimated how powerful they are, and I really, really, really recommend people make the effort to educate themselves and do the work. I've used the EMIA fund, I think, I can't remember how many times, but multiple times over the years, and that really, gave me the money that I needed. I would spend weeks on those applications. I would do it in advance, and then I would eventually use that money, then I would have to loan the money, right, from somewhere to pay for it up front. But I knew in the back of my mind, if I did my paperwork correctly, I'd get the money back. And then you go to the market, put your best foot forward, come back inspired, and with friendships and relationships that sometimes stick with you for the rest of your career.
which is what we can only hope for, all of us. And you've mentioned, Docs for Sale, and Selin also mentioned the other training programs and talent development opportunities that do exist at IDFA, of course. Now, Selin, what's exciting you? What sort of stories are coming up from the IDFA funded regions that are making you excited, so that we can just sort of get a sense of what you may be looking for before we go into the distinction between the development and the post-production fund?
Sure. All of the films that we fund eventually get me excited, or more so they're often devastating, but that's because of the world we live in. But I say that, and then I say that you don't have to apply with a devastating film. You can make a beautiful film about clouds that will also be amazing. Like it's not about that at all. So actually, this is a great point to touch on because Neil and Arya have said a lot of things that are really interesting and important here. And one of them is about selection. And so the selection, like you have a point, because I'm obviously the director, so I know who our readers are and our pre-readers are. But so I want to give all of you a sense of how it works. We have for the classic fund, we'll focus on that one for a minute. About 800 applications come in for every round these days. And that's a 30% increase from 2 years ago. So the fund is being accessed more and more. And we invite almost 30 pre-readers to read these, who are all independent from IDFA for the most part, who are all members of our nonfiction documentary industry globally, who are mostly living and working in the regions that we serve, and who are reading in pairs in pre-selection with me and my team overviewing everything that's going on. From this pre-selection, we move on to a selection committee, and this selection committee changes every round. So that's one thing. It's one thing to know. It's not the same people sitting together every time making these decisions in this sort of queenly way with me there. It is like it's the pre-readers are moving. There are several from South Africa, from the continent of Africa, from all over really. And they read different regions, different projects. So we try to work with a diverse, huge pool of experts. And by experts, it's everything from filmmakers, producers, to market experts, sales agents, really the entire ecosystem that we all work with. So this is our selection committee is always made up of this diversity, and it changes every round. Not to say that some don't come back, but it's a different group of people. Neil is right in one thing, is that they're all very well versed in this industry. So we all do watch a lot of projects, read a lot of projects, meet a lot of filmmakers. And so it's hard to say what excites me. I think what excites me is something that Arya mentioned, which is the rambling stream. And it's not a rambling stream, actually. It is a directorial point of view and a language. And that's actually always what sticks out. Authenticity and a unique voice, of course, because yes, and that's the whole thing about not lying. I love this. It's like, now we're going to be the lying police. There's no such thing. You can say whatever you want, but here, what does actually always end up in these pre-selection and selection committee, what stands out is always a distinct directorial point of view and a cinematic language. Whether it's affirmed or just being explored, it's there. And, I think every applicant is a filmmaker with a point of view and a language. But very often, applications focus on the story, the character, the current, like the background, the current event, the maybe future. It becomes very narrative, as in, I have to sit down and explain the how and the what and the why. And very often, the filmmaker forgets in their application to actually point to describe the most important and the most unique part of it, which is the point of view, the authorship, their unique language, their cinematic universe, how in development, how they want to explore it, all the rambling ways in which it could go, but it's there and it's being explored. And that's not often, but it's often forgotten, as in, oh, I'm here to tell a story. Let me explain why this story is important. Yes, that's always in there. It's always a big part of it. But it's often forgotten what this voice and this cinematic language is. So I would say that's what gets the committees very excited, is when they're like, oh, I see something here that feels very special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I just want to open up to everyone in the room if you have questions at the moment for any of our speakers. I know a lot of you may be thinking about applying for the fund that's closing on the 10th of February. So let us know where you are, what information feels important for you to have as you're going through this, and any other questions that you may have about applying for IDFA if you're planning to go this year. So you can just put up your hand in the chat or type it up. It's up to you. This means everything being said is very clear. I'm sure someone has a question for DTIC. We have them here. Let's take advantage. Emma, would you like to say something?
Hi, thanks. Thanks to DFA for arranging this, and thanks to the panel for that insightful information. My questions is actually, unfortunately, more directed to DFA board, because so you had an application to attend the festival. I think it was it for last year. And can you give us some maybe feedback on that, and whether that is going to be happening again, and why that one failed, and how we can not let that happen again? Because I think I was one of them that was told everything was in place, right, for that application, but then it just mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah, I think we do have a lot to say about that, and I'll let Alette and perhaps Carolyn, who were serving on the board with us last year, also come in there. And I know Neil was also part of the process. I think the major shortcoming was the fact that we didn't have from the participants who wanted to take part the correct details. So we actually did a webinar following that to try and capacitate our colleagues in terms of strengthening our applications in the future, in terms of being eligible, in terms of having the correct company documents, etc. So I'll just open up for Neil, Carolyn, or Alette, who may have been part of that process, to give us a little bit more information in terms of where we fell short, and maybe we can talk about what it may look like for this year if we try to apply.
I can give a little bit background. I mean, I remember that very well, and I mean, we were very excited. We negotiated with IDFA for the market, and we got the process going with the DTIC, and we went to the membership, and the honest truth is that there was a lot of interest, right? And I think there were a lot of applications, but to qualify for the scheme they were applying for, you need a minimum number, which I think at the time was 10, right? You can go up to 20 or even 30, but you need a minimum amount of 10 qualifying applications for the DFA to secure the funding that would send our delegation to IDFA. And I think there were 2, and I think yours might have been one of them, applications that actually succeeded in ticking all the boxes for the paperwork, the financial statements, the BE status, the tax clearance certificates, and all of that. So I think what I'm not on the board anymore, but what I understand is that this kind of process, bringing the DTI in here, the program had been trying to knowledge share and educate the DFA membership on what it takes to get a application through the DTI, right? To qualify, and that is that means that you've got to do the work first of all, to apply, but that means you need your back office in order. You need your finances in order. You need to pay your taxes, and you need to have the correct BE documentation in order. Without that, you don't qualify not only for this scheme, but even for the individual schemes that are still available if you're not part of a group scheme. So, I mean, what I'm feeling with the current board is that they are highly motivated to do this again and to make sure that IDFA sends a delegation, but that we need to bring the membership in to the idea that they need to upskill, I guess, themselves, or at least become aware of the paperwork. And there's no shortcuts for that. You've got to do the work to make sure you qualify. And you know, and it was actually enormously disappointing because IDFA was excited to have us. The DTI was excited to send a delegation. The only thing that was stopping us was the preparedness of the membership, and that is, I think, what these kind of platforms are for, to get people excited and people get their documents in order and apply, because you're missing out on huge market opportunities by not being at IDFA, by not being at the Berlinale, by not being at Hot Docs. You know, it's there. The global market wants your stories, but you need to be there to be in the room. So, and if you don't have the money, then that's fine. There's money available for you if you have your back office in order. Yes, I don't know if that makes sense, Sarah and Carolyn, but that's how I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. Thanks for that, Carolyn. Please go ahead, and then I'll move on after that. Thanks, Carolyn.
No, I was just going to just to reiterate as well. Yeah, what Neil said is correct, but just to know that with Judy and them, it's really amazing. You can do 4 international markets a year and 2 African markets. So you have access to go to, whether you're going to Cannes, Berlin, the American film market, the Red Sea, etc., etc. As long as there's a market attached where you're going to be able to do co-productions, or you're going to look for partners for your films, distributors, sales agents, anything like that, then the money's available. And it's really, as an individual, as Neil says, the main thing is just having your TCC, your quotes, and your financial statements, and the rest is pretty straightforward. It doesn't take long to upload, and the process is quite seamless. So I just wanted to add that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carolyn. Sophia, over to you before I read some of the comments we have on the chat.
Thank you. Hi. I don't know where my video is. Sorry, hold on. There we go. Hi. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's fantastic. So far, I have 2 questions. One is for the DTIC, and I think it's a generic question. We are aware of that there were issues in terms of funding with the DTIC last year or in the last while. Has the landscape changed? Is it, are we as filmmakers able to apply for funding at this stage? Did I create silence?
Judy, please let us know if you heard the question from Sophia.
Thank you, Sophia. I heard your question. I just want clarity from you. Which incentive are you referring to?
Rebate systems generally, that there's been a bit of a backlog and moratorium on applications, on incentives, especially on productions.
Yeah, on the production side, I won't unfortunately have any information, but I can request somebody from that unit that works with the film production incentives to give me the answer to that. But in terms of EMIA, the Export Marketing Investment Assistance, we are open for applications for individual exhibitions. On the sector-specific assistance, there I also don't have all the knowledge about whether they're accepting applications now. but you can also send me an email and I can direct you to that division. But for EMIA individual assistance, definitely we're accepting
Oh,
applications.
fantastic. Thank you.
And
That's
I
very
think
encouraging.
for sector-specific assistance as well, but I need to confirm with the unit.
Thank you very much. That's very encouraging. Thanks, Judy. I will send you an email. I appreciate it. And then my second question was, and I think you might be coming to it, so I'm not sure if I'm jumping the gun, but in terms of applying for post-production for the IDFA Bertha Fund, if the project's already been filmed, etc., are there any specific, I mean, I know that I've read the form and we've started to fill it in, but is there anything specific that over and above that you're looking for in terms of what qualifies for post-production funding? So if we've already filmed our piece, and we're in a cut, but obviously we are requiring top-up funds, is there anything that you could sort of point me to say we would want X, Y, Z, or what to look out for when I'm applying, or anyone's applying, actually?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for that question, Sophia. Here's the tip. You can apply for the classic fund. The bad tip here is that it's a one-time only application, as in you can only apply once to the category of development. You can apply, and if you get it, wonderful, but if you want to apply again, you have to come back for the production round. If you do not get the production, you can come back for post-production. So Sophia, if you've never applied before, I would actually suggest that you apply in production, late production, because you finished filming. And the distinction here is, if you apply for production, you can say I'm in early production, mid-production, late production. Then the application is the same. In terms of the materials, somebody asked questions about materials. I can even answer that quickly here. In the production stage, the materials are between 3 minutes and 20 minutes. But like we were saying earlier, the language is clear. There's maybe a well-developed trailer, some edited scene, something that shows the pace, the tone, what you're most proud of at that stage of production that you're in and that you've been able to put together. And that really does show where you're going in a concrete way with like confidence, like this is it. This is what we're doing in production. We added the ability to apply in post-production as almost like exactly this, a top-up fund at the very end. And when one applies in the post-production category, we specifically are looking for rough cuts, and we want to watch 20 minutes of a rough cut. So then you really are at the end. We're last in, and that's at the very end of the sort of life cycle of financing your film. But I would say that's the third time of the classic. First development, then production, then post-production. Don't jump. If you think you're in very early production, you should try, look at the development first. Like go through the cycle if you can. Aria is shaking her head. I'd love to see what she thinks about that. But yeah, because we're a fund where you can only apply once per category per classic.
Per classic. So if I think unfortunately I'm a bit.
You really are in post-production.
Well, I think in early production would work. I'm just saying, I think in the development maybe a bit.
And it's also not the kind of money you need, because development is a maximum of 7,500 euros.
That's correct.
Production and post-production are both 25,000.
Yes, which would be more beneficial to us right now. And we are sort of quite strongly at that point. So that would be very helpful. But what you're sort of suggesting is that once we've applied for the production funding, then we can reapply for the same project in terms of post-production under the Classic Fund.
So if you receive production, you can't apply for post-production. But you get 2 chances. That's the idea.
Okay.
So it's a way of not having a one-time only. We added the ability to come back in production at the end.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
So I would suggest applying, because this round is in a few weeks, February 10. We only have 1 round of classic funding this year. So it's not for 2026. Applying is now. It's in this round.
Yeah, I've gone through the application and everything. So I was very confused as to whether it was going to be production or post-production. Where do I slot the project?
Pro tip, production.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll leave the room. I mean, the picture.
Yes. Selin, I mean, obviously we're happy and we know that Aria has gotten funding and she's from this part of, the regions that you support. Do you have sort of quotas in terms of this is how many projects we need from Africa, or is it all just based on random strength of the applications that you get in any given year?
There's no quota, but there's also, it's not random. As in so every year, because we have 3 different schemes that have different considerations, it would be impossible to put an overall quota for the regions, to say this many from Africa, this many from Asia, this many from Latin America. So at first we focus on this is what we say to our pre-selection and selection committees. We are looking for creative merit, creative, beauty, and like creative work, directorial work, and these are the projects that rise go from pre-selection to selection. But however, we have in the pre-selection we have readers who focus on each region, so it's each region will rise to the final selection, let's say. And then in the selection committee, while there is no quota, I start the selection committee by being very clear that we want to support like a diversity that's both geographical, gender, story, point of view, angle, genre. Like it's important to within that sort of creative excellence, if you want to say, that there is that diversity, both and geographical as well. And that's because, well, we only have a finite amount of funding, but our mandate is not quite global, but it's very big. And there's excellent projects everywhere. And also I think for the community that we serve, the funders that we have, like this, we need for me, it's important to be cognizant of the community that we're in. So we wouldn't go heavily in one direction. Yeah. And no official quota. That's true. And in the future, for example, our other scheme, which is the Europe co-production scheme, has a lot of rules to it. And we can talk about those in a bit. So, and they end up almost like the quota there is that you have to have a European co-producer on board. It becomes this, how do you say it? Like this thing that you have to have. So a lot of projects get cut out. So I think not having forced quotas in any way allows for us for the Classic Fund to be as flexible and accessible as possible, maybe. It's maybe why we're trying not to put any harsh labels or harsh rules on it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Aria, Selin mentioned that obviously you have two chances or opportunities to be able to come back. For you, what was that in terms of when you applied for the development and came back for the production? How did you show the growth or progress that you had to make sure that you got the production fund as well?
Yeah, I mean, so this is, I think, people have talked, Neil spoke a lot about voice and, we've talked about like finding your language and point of view and authenticity and all of these things. And I think the thing that is like, it takes a lot of time, I think that there's like maybe some prodigies, artistic, like, geniuses who have it I think it's always there. I think it's in everybody. But I think because there's confidence and there's also working against all the policing inside your head and outside that is about getting free, So like documentary as a liberatory practice to that it takes time to get free, and so I've said it's a long road and it's increasingly long. It's longer and longer because like everyone's saying, there's less and less there's less and less support for free creative documentary work. It is an incredibly, like a very, very threatened species of film. And I think we must acknowledge that because it's the truth. But we have to do everything we can to protect the species, right? Like, because I've also said calling, not job. And I think that's a true thing. And so for this kind of film, for these kinds of films, and you make them in between other work, or you, I don't know, like everyone has got different ways that you just keep trying to make them, which takes me to answer the question, which is that, like I said, the idea was gestating from like 2017. I did other things in between. I then put in a development application, which was very rambling, but I felt a grip at that stage on my language enough to feel confident enough to put it in. So that was put in 2021. And then it took me to 2024 to feel confident enough that I was ready to put in full production. So that was the timeline between those two cycles. And I can't tell you, because I also believe, and I think this is also, I don't think universally applicable, but like my practice is like a very process heavy practice. It's very much about working with the material, letting the material lead. The film's also being made at a very particular moment in historical time. And so all of these things shape how, yeah, like shape the language that's forming. And I mean, I don't want to be like esoteric about it, but I also believe, films have like they've got a soul and a spirit and a nature, and you're also getting to know it through the process. Yes, so that was the space and time between, and there's been an immense amount of building on what was an initial proposition to get to a point where I felt it was kind of ready for, okay, there's 20 minutes on the line that feels like it could be part of a rough cut. And that's what I put in for production, because I know that when we get to final rough cut, those 20 minutes are very possibly going to have been completely turned into something else, because it's the nature of, yeah, like the medium as it is for me.
Yeah. And go ahead, Selin.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because I was working for the fund when Arya applied with the second round. And I will say that this is a good example of in the development phase, that project had a very big promise. The filmmaker had a cinematic language in mind, and it was I think it was a short trailer in the development, but that sort of that sparkle was there. And then the written material was very much like the filmmaker, like I keep saying the filmmaker, Arya knew like what the avenues, the ideas, the themes, the shapes were there. They had to be explored. That was the development. In the production, those avenues were explored. Those themes were like fully grown in a way. The vision had been nurtured for 3 years. And then the audiovisual material was, it was more than a promise. It was like setting us off into the film with a very strong, was it 20 minutes or 10, 15 minutes, but strong, like, oh, it's not just a promise. This is being delivered. Like, and that's the difference, I think, between when one thinks, when should I apply in development? It's a beautiful promise that's being made. And, the filmmaker, they're making a promise to themselves and to the reader. All that is there. None of it's set in stone because it's impossible. But at the development stage, at least for our fund, these beautiful, like these promises of what it could be, where it's going to go, what it could look like is there in the writing and in a small sample that can indeed be made with your friend's laptop and the phone. It does not have to be high end, but it does have to be authentically yours, because there is a question in the chat about, can I apply with a mood board or a storyboard? Unfortunately, no. And one of the reasons for that is that at the stage of development where to apply to the IDFA Bertha Fund in development, it's more than pictures and a story. It's not like fiction at all. It's not like I have an idea in mind and it's coming together. I've started to like Play-Doh this audiovisual material already. So that's why we say minimum 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not a lot, but a lot can happen in those 2 minutes. But in production, that promise is kind of answered. There needs to be financing, support, collaborators, and there's still a big road ahead. But there is a different kind of confidence in the production application where the film has been gestated in a way that it's going to go. And you can really feel that in production applications. No.
That's really inspiring and heartwarming to hear about Aria's journey. Neil, please go ahead. Then I'll ask my follow-up question after that.
I mean, Aria used a word that really jumped out at me: endangered species, right? And I mean, that goes, I think, to the heart of to use another metaphor, the elephant in the room, right? And the truth is that, you know, IDFA and the fund and the festival really, you know, it supports auteur-driven filmmaking, the voice, the authentic voice, fresh point of view that we've been talking about. The problem is that there's less and less space for that. There is still space for it, but there is less and less. The world has changed a lot. The kind of media that's been commissioned, from the streamers, and how that's impacted the public broadcasters, how co-productions work. I mean, it has impacted the environment radically. IDFA has this wonderful, support with co-productions on very much at the heart of the kind of films that IDFA supports, and the fund that gets you into pitching really is part of that. But it is. There are more and more filmmakers that want to make those kind of films, and there seems to be less, and there's more and more talent, and there's more and more. There are more and more stories that need to be told, but it seems to be that there's less and less platforms to get those stories to the market. And it can be incredibly disheartening for emerging filmmakers, for experienced filmmakers, to constantly be hitting your head up against a system that's often saying no, right? And it's often not about your idea. Your idea might be good. It just there might be a matter of bad luck, bad timing. There's a lot of forces at play that are out of control of you as an individual filmmaker that's got something to say and wants to go to the world. Okay, and you've got to do everything in power to not get angry about that, and that means you need to think about how you run your life as a storyteller, and I think what that means is that the kind of films that IDFA is represents, the very best of global auteur filmmaking, is a very beautiful and special place to be. It's not the only place to be, okay? There are a lot of ways to make content, and a lot of ways to make media, and a lot of ways to support yourself in between those passion projects with a voice that might take that often do take years to develop. There's a good chance that every single film that is funded by the fund or eventually ends up screening at IDFA has been in development for years, right? Many years, and that the business model behind it, the funding available for this kind of filmmaking doesn't easily support you over that time. So what do you do with the rest of your time, right? To make sure that you supporting your craft, holding onto your integrity, getting access to the industry. I mean, that's a question every single filmmaker needs to ask themselves, because no one fund or no one festival is going to solve all your problems, and that's very important to understand. It's just part of a bigger puzzle that's no one else's responsibility but your own to manage. And there are support mechanisms out there, which is why what the DFA is doing is so incredible, because it really is a supportive community that's bringing people together. I think every opportunity should be taken head on, because it's tough out there, but it just takes one yes to change everything.
Yeah. I think it's also not getting disheartened by the no's, but also not letting ourselves get big heads from the good times. Just keep moving and pushing to make sure that you realize your vision and the story, and obviously believing in what you're doing and it being important to you is what's going to keep you going, because it can get quite difficult, quite hard to keep hearing rejections and hearing no's. Selin, in terms of the actual application, are there sections that applicants do underestimate? And what would your advice be in terms of managing the time that you have to go through the entire application to make sure that you are putting across everything in the most strong and putting your best foot forward?
Actually, it's a fairly friendly and simple application that you can save and come back to until you're ready to send it. So you can return to it, look at it, and come back to it. Also, I will say that our website does a good job with our FAQs. We have we even wrote a how to write a proposal, which starts with there's no one way to do it, but it does sort of give a breakdown of a synopsis, and it gives you the basics of what we're expecting and what a lot of funds expect, or even potential partners and collaborators would like to see. So I just rewrote it recently. I just looked at it, and it's not telling you to do it in any one way, but it does give you a skeleton idea of how to ask yourself the right questions. It's just a writing guide. It's great. You can take it and then turn it on its head, but it's there to just give you, prompts. So we have that. We have tip on when to apply as well, which is this whole, should I apply now or next round or next year? So you can take a look at the website for that. But it's not a very hard application. Like, it's a fairly, like we said, we're flexible. So we try not to be too verbose. We don't ask you a million questions about the details. We just have these different parts of it, and you can fill them in with the ability to, if you know what you're doing, great. If you don't know, we do have a writing guide, writing prompts, and support for that. Support even on how to do your budget. We provide you with a template. Everything is there. It's fairly simple. What I noticed that is often forgotten is what I was describing earlier, the actual intention, the directorial point of view. And it's not just a why me, like I'm the right person because XYZ. It's what is my artistry? Why, how am I, that's often the missing piece, as if it's the least important piece, but it's the most important one for our fund. And the elephant in the room, it's not an elephant. It's like a massive train that's been like careening through everybody's lives and careers in filmmaking. There has never been a lot of space for this beautiful creative endangered species that is this, sort of creative, free of any kind of political pressure, documentary cinema that doesn't have someone giving you their business on your rough cut. That's always been very difficult to find that space, but it's right now in the absolute moment of chaos where even the streamers are not necessarily places you can count on. And anyway, so for those here who are new, it's great news for you because you didn't know what it was like. You can only look forward to how you're going to make your films and show them, because these are the things. You make them, you show them. And if there were models to do it in the past that are breaking down, for those of us who've been in this industry, for like Neil and Arya and myself, and I see Tiny is here, or, for those of us who've been in the career for 10, 15, 20 years, we've seen these things go up and down massively. And right now they're really, really down. So we have something that we feel like we've lost, and also like a path that we've lost, and it's harder to look forward. But all this to say that this is an absolute moment of chaos, but it will always be the case. And what you say is most important. It's about your own sustainability, and it's financial, like it's economic. It's also mental, like mental health sustainability. because Aria's got a point. It is a calling more than it is a career. I think we make it a career by thinking about our sustainability in a business-minded way. That's why, you know, the DTIC, like this program, is about business development and business export and import. It is a business, but within that business, it's also like I keep talking about artistry. So it's a very interesting right part of the brain, left part of the brain meeting in the middle. So we do have to pursue this like it's, you know, our dreams and it needs to happen, but doing it with this idea that we're in it for the long term. We have to see these waves of industry and freedom of speech and things come and go, and also understanding how we are going to be sustainable through it, again, in an economic, financial, and livelihood way. And the friends that the colleagues, the friends that I have here that we know each other, we've all so far made it through 15, 20 years in. So there is a way. But it's not easy. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to open up and see if there are any more questions. Okay, Cheryl's just saying she's got her feedback from a question. Anybody else with a question that you would like to pose or ask as you're filling in your form? Okay. It looks like that is all we had time for. I just want to like encourage everyone to really have a look at the form. Like Selin says, it is very user friendly. I had the opportunity to go to IDFA in 2024, so 2 years ago. I didn't manage to sell anything, but at the same time, that is where we met our funders. We met some German funders who are funding our current project at the moment. So there may be places where you don't succeed, but because of just the sheer number of people you get to meet at the networking events and meet through the different opportunities that you get at the actual festival, it's really lifelong relationships, and it's really supportive people. Even the whole IDFA team were really supportive in terms of, everything that we needed to prepare for our pitches, etc. So it was a really good experience for myself and my producer who went there with Steps about 2 years ago. So I can only have good things to say about IDFA. But before we close, maybe just some closing remarks. Aria, where are you with your film? How is it looking in terms of the way forward? And then Selin, just any final nuggets you may have for us, Neil, yourself as well. Aria?
It is, as you say, like an incredibly supportive IDFA, an incredibly supportive partner. We are trying to be done by the end of this year, if everything is, or early 2027. This is the dream. And I hope that the process allows this. And, there are also, we've also participated in it for, the project has participated in Project Space, which I don't think anyone mentioned, which is an incredible kind of incubator space and mentorship and these kinds of things. And we have, through like you say, the broader network, met incredible people and supporters and kind of champions for the project. So it's really great visibility. We also pitched at Forum in 2023 in the Producers Connection category. But I think being there generally, and I had never been before having this project, but the South African community that gathers there and all the people they know, that it really is a very family, it really does feel like a family of documentary filmmakers. And so I really do encourage everyone to make use of the opportunity, the market opportunity to go. Yes, so early 2027, is that right? Yes, inshallah. I will keep DFA posted. And thank you for the space to talk about it. It's nice to be together.
Thank you, Ari, and congratulations once again, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, it changed my life, and I carry that with me for the rest of my life. And as I said earlier, you know, the friendships and relationships that I made there has stood with me for forever, and I continue to make films with some of those people. But you know, IDFA not the only market, right? You know, you need to also educate yourself around CPH docs, you know, Hot Docs, Sundance, Cannes, Berlinale, Sunnyside, you know, Festival de Rio, the World Congress of Science and History Producers. There's a lot of incredible markets, you know, right on your doorstep. Don't forget the Durban Film Mart, you know, MIP. You know, you have to. You have to participate in the markets. Do whatever it takes to get there, by hook or by crook, because that is the stepping stone to understanding how this business works, to building those relationships, finding your voice, and making your storytelling dreams possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neil. Selin, over to you.
Yeah, you don't need to do it by hook or by crook because you have this great export program. But which is really nice. You were saying I was thinking of the Durban Film Mart because I think that I travel to markets and to festivals in order to be in community, to develop my network, to meet more people, to understand what's needed. Like it's important, and I was, you know, DFM is a very important one, and don't forget FISBACO every 2 years. That's also a great, like, very important festival for the continent that I definitely try to go to every biennial. In terms of IDFA, yes, we do have, you know, we are among other spaces that are there for filmmakers to develop their films, to network, to get funding, to just do their business within this artistic space. I put in the chat the IDFA project space that Neil referred to as the summer school, because that's what it used to be called. It isn't a creative incubator. There are more around. Yeah, I agree with what's been said here, is to be in community. I mean, the fact that you came to this gathering today is the first indication that you are you know, filmmaking is a very lonely business, very lonely practice. And so the best thing is to be in community. And whether it's going all the way to Amsterdam or going to Durban or getting funding or what, it is like a web that you grow slowly, and that becomes sort of your sustain. I think ultimately maybe that's the sustainability right there, is the ability to grow this web very locally, regionally, nationally, maybe internationally, and then sort of keep it. That's the best way to do it. So that's my inspirational note for now. I will say the deadline for IDFA Project Space is on the 1st of February. For those of you who are interested, I put it in the chat. And then we're at February 10 for the Classic Fund. The next couple of funds are in April and May, so there's more time. If you ever have any questions, I will put my email address and IDFA.nl here, and I will guide you to the right space. And if you have any specific questions, I can help answer them.
Much, much appreciated, Selin. There's just one question here from Akashni saying, are there grants available to individuals to attend IDFA? I know we spoke about the DTIC fund, but does IDFA give any grants to individuals to attend?
IDFA itself, we actually, so if you are selected for one of the programs, if it's the IDFA Project Space or the Forum or Docs for Sale, or, you know, for if your film is in the festival, like, we do have ability to support, like, not automatically, but we can, there is like the ability to get scholarships and sponsorships and different things through IDFA directly. Although probably in conversation with you, we would say, let's go talk to the DTIC together. That would be our first thought. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Selin. And everyone, please join us for the next edition of these DocShare webinars. We are running them all the way until the 16th of April. The next one is next Thursday, 29th of January. It's talking about how to shoot broadcast quality footage on your cell phone. So thanks so much, everyone. Thank you to the DocShare team, everyone who's been involved in creating the marketing materials, the beautiful video you saw at the beginning that was edited by Mabatu Muntu. Beautiful teamwork happening in this subcommittee, and we're just so proud, and it enriches us in terms of knowledge, in terms of connections. Now you have someone to contact at IDFA, you know, so thanks to DFA and thanks to all the volunteers and all the subcommittees for keeping us going. So thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye. Thank you. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.